His hand slapped the carved wood. The ground cracked under his boots. Birds exploded from the rocks. A shadow dropped from the ledge above. He ducked and rolled as a spear punched into the dirt. Another tore past his shoulder. A war cry snapped across the canyon wall. He scrambled up but slipped on shale. Something heavy slammed his ribs. He gasped and twisted. A second figure rushed from behind the boulders. A stone blade slashed past his neck. He kicked out and caught a leg. They both tumbled down the slope. More shapes rose from the ridge. Drums pounded from above. One hand reached toward his throat. He shoved it back, but lost his grip on the cliff edge. His body slid. His foot caught. His boot tore. He reached out for the ledge. Something else grabbed his wrist. Not to save him, to pull him back. The blade came down toward his face. He rode toward the canyon at midday, with dust lifting behind the horse. Heat pressed down on his shoulders. The trader stood beside a warped counter and watched him approach. The man wiped his hands on his vest and shook his head once. He said the land ahead was not empty. He said something was buried there. He said it was placed deep for a reason. He said poor men who went looking did not come back the same. The cowboy listened without stopping. His boot stayed in the stirrup. His hand stayed loose on the reins. The trader raised his voice and warned him again. Said the canyon remembered hands that took. Said some things were not lost. They were waiting. The cowboy nodded once and rode on. The sound of hooves faded. The trader spat into the dirt and turned away. Hands forced him forward in the present. Fingers locked into his arms. His boots scraped stone. Blood ran warm along his ribs. He was pushed between tall figures who moved without sound. The canyon walls closed in. Heat rose from the ground. He stumbled but was held upright. The path opened into a wide circle of stone. Elders waited there. They stood in a half ring. Their faces were still. Their eyes did not blink. No one spoke. He was shoved to his knees. His palms hit the ground. Grit cut into his skin. His breathing came sharp and uneven. A child stepped forward, small feet bare on the rock. The boy carried a carved stone in both hands. It was dark and smooth and marked with lines worn thin by time. The child knelt and set it at the cowboy's feet. The stone touched dust. The boy looked up once, then stepped back. The elders did not move. One old man leaned forward. He spat onto the ground beside the stone. The sound was loud in the quiet. The spit darkened the dust and soaked in. The cowboy lifted his head. His vision swam. He saw the same shape carved into the stone that had stood outside the canyon. His fingers twitched but did not reach. A low drumbeat began behind him. Slow, heavy. It pressed into his chest. Hands pulled his shirt open. Air burned across his skin. He tried to rise. A knee drove into his back and forced him down again. The tribal leader stepped forward. His hair was bound tight. His chest was bare. Scars crossed his skin like old trails. He held a ceremonial blade in one hand. The blade caught the sun. Light ran along its edge. The leader looked down at the cowboy without anger, without mercy. He raised the blade slowly. The shadow of the steel slid across the cowboy's chest. The blade paused in the air. Muscles tightened. The edge turned downward. The arm began to fall. The blade did not cut. It pressed. The edge did not slide. It stayed still. Heat grew beneath it. Smoke rose in a thin line. Flesh blistered in silence. The cowboy did not cry out. His teeth locked. Muscles jumped in his arms. The blade stayed until the skin hissed. Then it lifted. He gasped. His chest heaved. The mark seared black just below the collarbone. A shape like the totem. Curved edges, crossed lines. The wound pulsed once, then closed without bleeding. Hands pulled a blindfold over his eyes. Rough cloth. Smell of dust. Fingers knotted the tie behind his head. He did not resist. His arms were bound again, not tight, just enough to lead. They walked. The ground sloped. Loose rock shifted underfoot. The path turned again and again. Every time he tried to count steps, he lost the number. A sharp left. A long, straight climb. The sun moved. He could feel it. Heat changed sides of his face. No one spoke. Eventually, the ropes fell away. The blindfold stayed. Then that too was pulled free. He blinked against the light. His knees buckled. He caught himself on bare earth. He turned to look behind. There was no canyon, just desert. He walked. South first, toward a line of ridges. Each hour his throat dried more. His lips cracked. Sweat ran down his spine. His boots dragged. He passed a stone that looked familiar. He passed it again. He turned west. No path, just rock and mesquite. Time passed without change. A bird cried far overhead. He saw a trail and followed it. It circled back. He tried north. He found the same shallow gully. His own footprints crossed themselves. The sun stayed high. The world would not shift. The desert held him. His chest burned. The mark throbbed. He stripped his shirt. The skin was black where the blade had touched, not open, not scabbed, just black, deep black. It seemed to rise and fall with each breath. He fell to one knee, tried to rise, fell again. His hands hit sand. He crawled, dragged one foot behind the other. The air shimmered in front of him. He saw a shadow and reached for it. There was nothing. He collapsed flat. Face in the dust, heat pressed down like a stone. His breath came shallow. The mark pulsed stronger. It moved with his heartbeat, then faster. Not matching. Not his. A second rhythm rising under the first. He rolled onto his back. The sky spun. His fingers trembled. The black mark rose above his skin. It glowed faint, then flickered. The light inside it was not warm, not fire, not sun. He raised one hand to it. The light vanished. Darkness came hard behind his eyes. He woke with a start. Breath caught in his throat. The fire crackled beside him. Dry wood. Low flame. Sharp light flickering across his chest. He winced. The mark throbbed hot again. Not pain. Pressure. A deep, silent force pushing outward from beneath the skin. She sat across the fire. Legs folded. Back straight. Hair tied high behind her head. Her eyes watched but did not waver. No weapon in her hand. No food offered. No words. Just stillness. He tried to rise. His hand sank into loose sand. Muscles strained. Heat struck his chest. The mark flared. His vision narrowed. He dropped back to one knee. She stood. He looked up. She did not look away. She turned her shoulder toward the far ridgeline. One arm lifted. Her hand opened, fingers straight, pointed to stone high above. He blinked. She was gone. The fire still burned. Ash curled upward. A single print remained in the dust beside where she had been. He pulled his legs beneath him, pushed up. The mark burned hotter the higher he stood. His hand shook, his mouth dry, his breath short. He turned toward the ridge. The path climbed slow but constant. Shale slipped beneath each step. Scrub brushed his legs. Sweat rolled along his spine. He did not stop. His body argued. His chest pulled inward each time the black mark pulsed. He crested the first rise. More followed. The land gave no shade. The sky pressed white above. Birds circled far out of her reach. His boots scuffed against flat rock. Each footstep sounded too loud. The wind blew across the slope but carried no relief. He followed where the dust seemed broken. A trail of steps too light to be his own. Each footprint seemed to vanish behind him. He did not look back. The climb steepened. Thorns caught his sleeves. Stones cut his palms. He moved slower. Bent low. Dragged one arm against the ground. The ridge turned. Opened. The cave appeared ahead. He stopped. Breath filled his chest sharp. He stepped forward once, twice. The opening was not large, just wide enough for a man to pass upright. Wind had carved its face. Edges smooth where water once ran lifetimes ago. Inside the stone hung shadows. He stepped closer. Symbols lined the mouth of the cave. Faded ochre, sun-cracked black. Crosses, circles, shapes that curled like smoke. Marks repeated, overlapped. Some matched the sigil on his chest. His feet moved without choice. The air cooled as he neared. The ground dipped. No birds called here. No sound of insects. Just wind pressing against his back. He reached one hand toward the wall. The mark on his chest glowed again. Faint. He lowered his hand. The glow faded. He stepped inside. He stepped deeper. The air held no heat. The light behind him shrank. Stone closed around him in silence. Paintings lined the walls, faded shapes drawn with ash and earth. He moved past them, shapes blurred at first, then cleared. A line of riders moved along a painted ridge, faces without features. One rider stood apart. His coat was pale. His hands clutched a long object tight against his leg. The others followed. Behind them, a wide red circle marked the canyon. He stepped closer. The next panel showed fire, orange and black layered thick, hands raised, smoke curled upward into jagged lines, bodies bent back. A child in the center, small, arms flung wide. Flames reached the feet. Above the child, a totem rose from the earth, marked with the same shape branded into his chest. He reached toward it. His hand paused just above the wall. The paint shimmered, not color, not heat. A faint shift beneath the surface. The child moved. The flames curled tighter. He staggered back. Another panel beside it. The white rider stood over the fallen totem, one arm raised, holding something flat and dark. His face had lines now, shadowed jaw, narrow eyes. One scar across the cheek. The coat peeled open at the shoulder. A brand burned into his chest. The same shape. His throat closed. He moved to the next image. The rider fled. Alone. The tribe behind him knelt among ash. The child's body lay still on a black field. A woman stood beside it. Her hands cupped air. Her eyes pointed toward the canyon. The canyon gave no answer. The last panel. The rider was alone. Kneeling. Before him, the totem was lifted upright again, but the sky above it cracked with red lines. No peace. Only silence. He reached for his chest. The mark there beat faster. Each pulse struck like a drum behind bone. He turned his face to the painting of the white rider. The lines around the eyes were his. The jaw, the shape of the hand, the curve of the scar. Every detail matched, even the boots drawn at the figure's feet, even the tilt of the hat. He took one step back. The cave pulsed, not sound, not wind, a breath. He stumbled, reached for the wall. His fingers touched the last image. The stone burned. He yanked his hand back, skin raw, palm red. The mark flared. Pain ran across his chest like wire pulled tight. He dropped to one knee, air gone from his lungs. The cave swam before him. He forced himself upright, legs shaking, eyes locked on the door. Each step dragged. He did not turn back. He reached the mouth of the cave. The light outside hit him. The mark pulsed again. He fell against the rock, hand to his chest, eyes wide, mouth dry. The rider had stolen something. He had paid for it. But not enough. He staggered into the light. Hands braced against rock. Air scorched his lungs. The mark still burned across his chest. Then he saw it. His horse lay on its side near the trail, the body stiff, the eyes open. A ceremonial spear stood upright in the center of its ribs. Feathers hung from the shaft. Red thread wrapped tight near the blade. He moved forward. One foot dragged. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Flies swarmed the wound. Blood had dried in the dust. The spear quivered once. A footstep sounded behind him. He turned fast. No sign of the woman, no sign of the tribe. Just a single figure at the edge of the ridge. Tall, lean, covered in dust and old leather. The man's chest was bare. A brand burned into his arm. Same shape, same black lines. The stranger charged. The cowboy raised his arms too slow. A fist struck his jaw. He reeled, fell back. Sand filled his mouth. He rolled, dodged a boot aimed at his head, came up hard, swung wild, missed. The stranger grabbed his shoulder, drove him into the cliff face. Stone split his lip. He swung again, caught the side of the head. The man staggered, recovered fast, grabbed a rock, swung it down. He caught the arm, locked it, elbow snapped. The man grunted, pulled free, slammed into his side. They dropped to the ground, rolled once, twice. The cowboy came up on top, drove a knee into the ribs, got thrown off. Dust rose in thick clouds, hands scrambled for footing, boots scraped. The spear still stood in the dead horse. The cowboy dove. Fingers wrapped the shaft. He ripped it free. The stranger lunged. The cowboy turned and rammed the spear forward. Wood hit flesh. A choking sound followed. The man dropped. The cowboy stumbled back. He waited. The stranger did not rise. He knelt slow. Hands shaking. The body twitched once, then stilled. He looked down. The brand on the stranger's arm was burned deep. Not old. Not healed. Fresh. The skin around it bubbled. The black ink gleamed, same mark, same shape. But beside it, another brand. Fainter. Burned into the opposite shoulder. A second symbol. Curved lines, interlocked circles, worn and half erased, like something buried and forced to rise again. The cowboy sat in the dirt. Blood on his chest. Blood on his knuckles. His breath came ragged. His body screamed with pain. He reached for the second mark. Did not touch it. Just hovered there. A low hum ran through his fingers. He stood. The spear dragged behind him. The dead man stayed still. The mark on the cowboy's chest throbbed again, harder this time. He built the fire with small branches. Dry sticks snapped under pressure. Sparks leapt fast, then settled. Flames caught low. He sat beside it with legs stretched out. The spear lay flat across his knees. His chest rose and fell slow. The mark still glowed faint against the skin. He pressed his hand against it. The heat stayed. He tore a strip from his shirt, spit into it, scrubbed the flesh. His fingers turned red. The mark did not move. He rubbed harder. Skin broke. Still it held. Black lines unmoved, etched deep. He tossed the rag into the flames. The heat licked the edge of his boots. Ash curled upward. His breath settled. He looked toward the dark beyond the fire. Silence held the edge of the rocks. He shut his eyes. Gold. That was the reason. Not honor, not justice. Gold. A trader's map folded twice, hidden under the saddle, promised weight deep in the ground. He had heard it from a man who died before naming the place. He had come alone. No partners, no plan. Just one word circled in ink. Canyon. He had ridden fast, cut across dust flats, ignored signs, ignored warnings, ignored stories of sacred ground. He had touched the totem. Not with reverence, not with caution, with hunger. Now the gold meant nothing. He opened his eyes again. The woman stood at the edge of the firelight, her face calm, her hands at her sides, her hair caught the orange glow. She looked at the mark on his chest but said nothing. He did not speak either. She turned and walked. He stood, body sore, legs stiff. He picked up the spear and left it beside the fire. Followed her. Her steps were light. Sand shifted beneath her heels but left no sound. He stayed behind her. She did not slow, did not turn. The canyon mouth grew closer. He saw the ridges rise again, the walls marked by time. The entrance swallowed light. She stopped just before the dark. He approached slow. She faced him, lifted one hand. Her fingers touched the edge of the mark. Not a press, not a strike. A single resting moment. His heart beat harder. The mark did not flare. It cooled. Her hand dropped. She turned from him and stepped into the dark beyond the flame. Her body passed through shadow. The fire caught her edges once more before she disappeared into the red. He stood alone. The wind moved once across the canyon rim. Behind him, the fire cracked louder. Something fell into the coals. A burst of sparks leapt skyward. He did not look back. The mark stayed quiet. For now, he walked with no rifle, no saddle, no pack. only the clothes on his back and the dust on his boots. The canyon rose before him once more, walls tall and still. The wind moved soft between the stone. Light bent across the entrance. Shadows lay quiet under ledges. He stepped inside. His breath stayed even. The mark on his chest no longer burned. It waited, silent, heavy, like a stone set just beneath the skin. He reached a flat shelf of rock near the center, the place where he had first been dragged, the circle where the elders had stood. He paused. The rifle came first. He placed it across a low boulder, barrel turned down, stock wrapped in a strip of cloth. His hand lingered on the wood, then let go. Next, the saddle, dragged from the place he left it, placed beside the rifle, leather worn, straps cracked, still smelled of sweat and sun. He folded the blanket across the seat. Last came the water, the final canteen. He set it in the dust, turned the lid loose, let the water spill. The stream darkened the dirt, sank slow into the ground. A single drop clung to the rim, then fell. He stepped back, knelt, hands on his thighs, head bowed. The drums began, not like before, slower. One beat, then silence, then another. The sound came from deep within the canyon, far beyond his sight, but it moved through the ground, up through his knees, into his spine, into his chest. He kept still. The mark warmed again. Not sharp, not painful. A presence. A hand without fingers pressing inward. He raised his head. The boy stood before him. Same boy, same eyes, bare feet, short hair, skin the color of dusted earth, thin frame, quiet breath. He held something in his hands. The cowboy did not rise. The boy stepped forward, closer, stopped just within reach, lifted both hands. In them a single black feather, long, straight, edged in gray. It caught the light without shine. He placed it in the cowboy's open palm. The cowboy closed his fingers around it. The boy stepped back, said nothing. He turned, walked toward the stone. The drum stopped. No wind followed. The boy kept walking, toward the far edge of the canyon, where light fell against a cracked face of rock. His body reached the shadow, then passed into it. Stone swallowed him. No sound, no flash, just absence. The cowboy knelt alone, feather in hand, mark silent. The canyon still. Again. They came for him in silence. Figures stepped from behind the stone, painted faces, bare chests, eyes without expression. They did not raise weapons. They did not motion. They simply waited. He rose. The feather still rested in his hand. He placed it on the ground, bowed his head once, then followed. The path twisted upward through the canyon. Dust rose behind each step. Heat returned to the air. The mark on his chest stirred faintly but held no pain. They reached a flat plateau, circle of stones, wide enough to feel alone. At the center stood the urn, terracotta blackened by smoke, mouth rimmed in ash, fire already lit inside. A slow flame burned from oil-soaked cloth. No wind touched it. He stepped forward. They backed away. He wrapped both hands around the body of the urn. Heat bit through the clay. His palms blistered in seconds. He did not let go. He turned toward the far side of the circle. The path lay open across cracked earth. Thin roots clawed at the edges. Dust clung to the skin. No markers, no end in sight. He walked. The fire rose. Each step tore at the soles of his feet. Pebbles lodged between toes. Skin split beneath his weight. Blood marked the trail behind him. The heat climbed into his arms. Smoke stung his eyes. The urn grew heavier. Its shape pulled him forward. His muscles shook. Vision blurred. Shapes shifted at the edge of sight. He walked through a field of blackened trees. Their branches curled upward like broken fingers. Ash rained slow across the ground. His boots sank into char. His hands dripped blood onto smoldering roots. He saw a totem ahead. It stood half-cracked. Lines carved deep into its face. Eyes hollowed. Same symbol carved across its chest. He saw himself, not as he was, as he had been. Riding fast toward the totem, rope in hand, rifle on his back, eyes filled with hunger, jaw clenched tight. He watched himself tie the rope, watched himself drag the totem down. Wood splintered, dust rose. The canyon shook, fire burst from the cracks. The ground split open. He screamed. The vision shattered. He stumbled, returned to the sacred ground, urn still in hand. Blood running freely down his legs, his knees buckled, his spine twisted. He fell. The urn tilted. He caught it before it dropped. Flames licked his arm. He screamed again, but held it firm. The ground did not catch him fully. He stayed on one knee, head bowed, back bent, hands shaking, urn still burning. Heat roared in his ears. He raised his eyes. No one moved. The test was not over. His arms gave out. The urn slipped. Before it touched the ground, a hand caught it. She stepped from behind him, the woman with the dark braid and silent steps. She moved without sound. Her fingers wrapped around the clay. The fire inside flickered once, then rose higher. She turned from him, walked forward. The circle of stone opened for her. The tribe did not move, but they parted. At the far edge stood the totem. It had not been there before. Now it rose from the dirt, cracked, leaning. Old paint peeled from its surface. The same carved lines as before, eyes worn smooth. Ash still clung to its base. She reached it, placed the urn at its feet. The fire inside the clay touched the wood. The totem did not burn. The canyon shook. Stone trembled beneath their feet. Pebbles rolled toward the center. A groan moved through the ground like a voice buried under rock. Dust fell from every ledge above. Light bent. Shadows curled. He tried to stand. The pain had faded, but his strength had not returned. His knees dragged against the dust. His fingers clawed at loose earth. Then it stopped. The shaking passed. Silence pressed down. He raised his head. The tribe had formed a wide circle around him. They did not hold weapons. They did not wear paint. Their arms hung at their sides. Their faces did not show anger, not fear, only stillness. The woman turned and looked at him. The fire behind her burned quiet. The totem remained standing. He opened his mouth. Words came. Not his, not shaped by his will. They moved through him like water under pressure, like breath pushed from lungs that had never spoken. He did not understand them, but he spoke them. One by one, slow, even, final. When the last word left his mouth, the mark on his chest began to rise. The skin lifted. Black smoke pushed outward through the lines. It curled once across his chest, then drifted upward. His body locked, muscles seized, air froze in his throat. The smoke thinned. It lifted from him in slow spirals. The tribe did not move. The woman stepped closer. She did not touch him. The smoke lifted higher. The last of the black left his skin. The mark vanished. Not healed. Gone. Like it had never been there. He fell forward. Hands pressed into warm earth. Breath returned. The dust settled. The fire died. The urn cracked. The totem stayed upright. No wind moved through the canyon. The silence was complete. They led him without words. No hands touched him. No signal passed between them. Yet they moved as one, and he followed. His legs weak, arms limp at his sides. Dust clung to his boots. The fire behind them cooled to ash. The totem faded from view. They stopped beside a low rise of earth. No stone marked it, no carving, just a small swell in the dirt. At its edge, a ring of white pebbles half buried by time. The woman stood beside it. She looked at him, then stepped back. He dropped to his knees. No shovel was given, no tool offered. He dug. Fingers broke the crust first. Thin roots curled beneath. The earth grew warm and soft, deeper down. His nails tore. Skin split. Blood soaked into the dirt without pause. He kept going. The wind stopped. The air thickened. His breath came shallow. His palms blistered. He dug until his knuckles struck cloth. He paused, then dug slower, pulled the last layer of soil away. The cloth was still whole, faded brown with age, frayed edges, worn smooth in places, small. Not long enough for a grown body, not wide enough for strength. He placed his hands flat on either side, then peeled back the top fold. A child's face rested beneath, eyes shut, mouth closed. Bones beneath skin drawn tight with time. No rot, no smell, just stillness. Cloth wrapped close around the arms. One hand curled beside the chest, the other rested flat. He did not look away. His chest rose and fell once. The feather was still in his hand. He lifted it, placed it gently across the small chest. The tip brushed the child's chin. The quill nestled between both hands. He drew his fingers back. The ground did not move. The cloth did not stir. He stepped away from the edge of the hole. Dust marked his arms from shoulder to fingertip. Blood crusted beneath his nails. Sweat ran down his back. His knees shook but held. One of the elders stepped forward. He knelt, placed a flat stone beside the grave. It bore no writing. Another came, then another. One by one they placed stones. No words, no looks exchanged. A new ring formed. Not high, not wide, just enough to protect. When the last stone fell, they began to leave. One by one they turned. Walked back the way they had come. None looked behind. The woman stayed the longest. She stood across the mound from him, eyes on the grave, then on him. She dipped her head once, turned, left. He stood alone, the earth still open at his feet, the feather still catching the last light. He lived in a low shelter built from stone and timber, set just outside the canyon's reach, walls pressed close, roof thatched with dry brush. Smoke rose from the chimney only at dusk. He spoke to no one. Each morning he walked the same path, down past the gravel slope, up to the edge of the stone ring. There he stood, always still, always watching, then turned back the way he came. Seasons shifted, the sun arced lower. The air grew sharp by evening. Dust moved different when the wind came through the canyon mouth. Travelers passed sometimes. Never many, never close. Some carried rifles. Some moved quiet. None touched the earth beyond the circle. They saw him and turned back. Stories spread with their return. A white man in silence, skin burnt across the chest, eyes like flint, living beside the tribe but not part of it. Some said he was kept alive. Others said he had become part of the land itself. No one tested the edge twice. He grew older, slower, shoulders heavy with memory. Still he walked the same path each day. Still he stood where the drums had once sounded. Still the wind moved through the canyon and did not touch him. One morning, a child came. Alone, not Apache, not from any town nearby. Thin frame, bare feet. No fear in the eyes. He said nothing. The man waited. The child opened a cloth bundle. Inside rested a carving, small, rough, but clear. A totem in his likeness. The coat. The jaw. The burn across the chest. Eyes shaped the same. The man took it with both hands. The child turned and left without sound. The man carried the carving to the canyon mouth. The old totem still stood, leaning now, cracked more than before, still marked with ash, still silent. He placed the new totem beside it, not in front, not above, beside. He stepped back. The canyon gave no answer, no voice, no vision, no fire, only silence. He stood a long while, then turned. The wind shifted behind him. It lifted the feathers tied to the old totem. They turned slowly, not in warning, not in grief, just turned. The man paused, lifted his hand to his chest. The skin lay flat. No burn, no glow. Nothing returned. He let the hand fall. He kept walking. Dust rose behind his steps. The child's totem stayed upright. The feathers turned again, then stilled. The canyon watched, quiet, and kept its dead. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and comment on the Old Western Tales.